Your midterm exam is graded. Just need to finalize a few things. So you will get to know this afternoon or by tomorrow, okay? But, you know, I didn't think the exam was hard because I would say about 85% of the questions were basically from the lecture notes, okay? Especially the ones I've uploaded. If I wanted to really make the exam difficult, I could have relied more on the notes I have personally, right? Not the ones that I have uploaded. But most of the questions actually were from the lecture notes I have uploaded. So I would say at the most, you know, like 15 to 20% of the exam questions were relatively more difficult. But the ones that were graded show your score to be low. I mean, really low. I don't know if that's because you're not used to, I'm sure you're not used to multiple choice questions, but again, I remember taking multiple choice questions when I was an undergraduate student, and it was difficult because I had to memorize every single detail, okay, of this thick book. And I still only got about 70% out of it, although I really studied hard. I still remember that. But this, I didn't want to do that. I just want to make sure that, you know, I focus my exam questions on things you should know as someone who is taking or who is learning about Korean culture and society, right? So, well, we can talk more about the exam on Wednesday, okay? So save your questions until then, maybe after you get your score, right? Anyway, we have 6 more weeks of lecture before the final exam, and we start our second half with a topic on religion, okay? So religion in Korea. But a lot of time this morning would be more general observations about religion rather than a focus on Korea. Okay, so here we go. Oh. Okay, this is the lecture outline. So I'll start with like introductory remarks, and I better take this out. So I start with an introduction and then talk about the theories of religion, why religion exists, okay? And then I go on to talk about Korean religion from a historical perspective, very brief, okay? And then more current situation, religious diversity in Korea, followed by the rise of Christianity in Korea. As I may have said before, Korea is the only country in all of Asia where Protestant Christianity is a major religion. Okay, so in this last section, I talk about the factors why that happened. Okay, and this is also a focus of one of the chapters that you have to read for the second half. Okay. Introduction. Start with really, this is one of my favorite quotes all time. We have just enough religion to make us hate, but not enough to make us love one another. It's one by Jonathan Swift, the author of Gulliver's Travels. Okay? Again. Going back. Okay. I hope you like it too. All right, this picture, and the title would be something like, "The heart of the matter is that it's a matter of heart." This photograph was taken in 1899 in Damascus, capital of Syria. The man, the dwarf, his name is Samar. He's a Christian and cannot walk. And the one who carries him on his back is Muhammad. As his name suggests, he's a Muslim and he is blind. So Muhammad relies on Samar to tell him where to go, while Samar uses his friend's back to navigate the streets of Damascus. They were both orphans and lived in the same place, same room. Samar was a Hakawati. It's a local term. It's an ancient Arab art of storytelling. So he's a storyteller. So for a small fee, he would tell the person like a folk tale or a folklore. Okay, and and Muhammad, on the other hand, sold candies. So they would go to a cafe. So one would sell candies, and the other one would say, I am a storyteller. For a fee, I'll tell you a story, right? So they had this interdependent relationship. And one day, when he retired to his room, Muhammad found his companion dead. Muhammad, this guy, blind, who walks. So he wept and mourned his friend for 7 days straight. When asked how they got along so well, being of different religions, he said only this: "Here we're the same," pointing to his heart. And he said, "The heart of the matter is that it's a matter of heart." Okay? So it's these two individuals, two different religions, but showing this deep and profound respect and love for each other. Something to learn from. Have you seen the movie The Bucket List? It stars Morgan Freeman and Jack Nicklaus. Anyway, as the title of the movie suggests, these two old men are terminally ill, and they end up in the same hospital room. So there are two beds in the room, and these two men are the occupants. And knowing that they have only few months to live, I think it was Jack Nicklaus who suggested, hey, we just have a few months to live. Why don't we do things that we've always wanted to do, okay? And that's doing what's on the bucket list, right? And I guess this happens because it's a movie. They do a few things together, things that are on the bucket list, and one of them is to go visit the pyramid in Egypt. And in this one scene, they're sitting on top of the pyramid. Again, it only happens in the movie, right? And there, Morgan Freeman says this: "The ancient Egyptians had a beautiful belief about death. When their souls got to the entrance to heaven, the guards asked two questions, and their answers determined whether they were able to enter or not. And they had to say yes to both questions, okay? And these were the two questions. and I want you to think about this question deeply about yourself. Okay? You're young, but it's never too late, and time flies fast. First question is, have you found joy in your life? Second, has your life brought joy to others? These are very simple questions, but are you having fun? Is your life enjoyable? You should ask yourself all the time. Because I think we live in this very competitive society, whether it's Korea or outside of Korea. And I think we just lose sight of what makes us happy. Okay? So think about this question, and maybe you have been too hard on yourself, right? And the second question is, has your life brought joy, or is your life bringing joy to others? So are the words you use to others, your actions, your behaviors, are they being considerate to others? Are they being nice? So again, when I saw the movie itself is not that great, but this particular scene and with this remarks just caught my attention, and I've been quite focused on this because many studies of people who are dying and who died actually show that everyone dies with regrets. Okay? It's not a matter of who has or who has not. Everybody dies with regrets. So your job, as it is mine, because I always focus on this, right? If anybody asks me, what is the purpose of your life? Something like that, I'll say, it is to minimize regrets I have at the time of my death. Okay? So, do things you like to make you happy. Okay? All right. Well, now turning to more serious stuff. Can you rank the following list of some of the world's major religions from the fastest growing to the slowest growing? Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, and Buddhism. Anyone? I'll just take one respondent. One answer. Anyone? Just to break the ice for the second half. You're going with what? Okay. Well, the first part is incorrect because it's the Islam that's the fastest growing. Okay, and the slowest growing is, I think, Buddhism. Okay, so we'll check. So here we go. The correct order is this: Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, Judaism, and Buddhism. Okay? Now, if this is on the exam, for example, wouldn't you be able to guess it correctly, easily? No? Oops. Well, this is well, if you were not able to, answer it correctly, you shouldn't feel bad because it's a difficult question. Okay. Islam, currently the fastest growing religion, is the world's second largest religion. So, in terms of the total membership, Christianity is still the largest number one religion. But again, the question was, which is the fastest growing, right? So Islam is, again, the fastest growing religion, and it's the world's second largest religion with an estimated 1.9 billion followers. So that's about a quarter of the world population. As you may know, the world population today stands at about 8 billion, right? So from 2015 to 2060, the Muslim population is projected to grow by a whopping 70%, more than twice as fast as the global population, due primarily to the religion's young population and high fertility rate. Again, this is just a projection. In contrast, Christianity, currently the world's largest religion with nearly 2.4 billion followers, is projected to rise by 34% by 2060. This means that Muslims will likely outnumber Christians in the second half of the century. As the third largest religious group in 2015, Hinduism has nearly 1.2 billion adherents. And as you know, most of the followers of Hinduism are Indians, right? Their total is projected to grow by about 27% by 2060. Judaism, with 14.7 million followers, is projected to grow by only 15% by 2060. But again, it's Buddhism is actually projected to decline. Okay? Well, you know, it's one of the situations for Buddhism is that it's mostly limited to people living in Asia, right? And that's why I think its potential for growth is quite limited. Well, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism are all most likely familiar to you, but Hinduism is less likely to be familiar, although yoga and meditation may provide at least superficial familiarity with the 33,500-year-old religion that originated in ancient India. So this is a trivia fact. Okay? Of all the world religions, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism is the oldest. Okay? So, besides this survey, okay, this survey was about, which religion is the largest and what's the forecast for its growth or decline. So, besides this survey, one of the pressing questions regarding religion, at least in sociology, is whether its influence is declining. Can anyone like to answer this question? Do you feel that the influence of religion is increasing or declining? With one motion gesture, declining. Well, believe it or not, in terms of the religious population, people who follow a particular religion, it hasn't really declined. It's actually projected to increase over the years. Okay, but changes did take place where religious influence did decline. Okay, so again, there's a difference there, right? In terms of religion having an influence on society, culture, politics, that has definitely happened, right? That's called secularization, right? But in terms of people, the number of people actually believing in religion or following a particular religion, that is a different story. Okay, so I'll continue with what Nietzsche said. Is everyone familiar with this particular phrase? God is dead. Well, it's a very popular saying, but maybe not too many people are familiar with the background or the context in which this was said. Okay? Nietzsche said this, and this is the complete statement. Okay? Well, if I could just take a moment to read this, to quote, "God is dead. God remains dead, and we have killed him, and how shall we comfort ourselves?" And so on. And what was, well, I'll not read it. I changed my mind. So, when Nietzsche said this, or why he said this, is this. Well, there are a couple of things I want you to look up after the class is over. The Enlightenment, the Age of Reason, and also scientific revolution. Because I think I sort of mentioned in passing, right? Because the world we live in today, if you wanted to find the philosophical or sort of ideological reasons why everything happened the way it did, we owe everything to scientific revolution and also the Enlightenment. You see, prior to the rise of this Enlightenment movement, where did we find the source of knowledge and purpose of life? See, everything, we depended on religion for our answers to our problems. Okay? But Enlightenment and scientific revolution changed everything. We no longer relied on religion for answers to the questions we had about the universe, about life, about any curiosities we may have. Again, before the Enlightenment and scientific revolution, again, we were, in a way, from today's standard, we were superstitious in a way, right? Because I don't want to get too far on this, because there may be some people who are quite seriously religious, and again, so that's why you really have to look this up, okay? Scientific revolution, the Enlightenment, what the significance of these two movements, okay, for humanity today, okay? So, with the rise of the Enlightenment, religion lost much of its societal, political, and philosophical influence. Okay? Again, it's not about the individual being more religious or less religious. When we talk about the impact of the Enlightenment and scientific revolution on religion, it's about its impact at the societal, political, and cultural level, not at the individual level, okay? So the key point would be something around the second point, right? The Enlightenment was an intellectual and cultural movement of the 17th and 18th century in Europe, which emphasized reason over superstition, religion, and science over blind faith in previously accepted doctrines and traditions, again, including religion. Okay? Religions, Nietzsche argued, used to be a point of reference for our knowledge and for our sense of purpose and meaning. For some people, that is still true, okay? But at the societal level, that is not true anymore, right? So living in a world without God would mean living without the security and creating our own values and getting used to what Nietzsche called the loneliness of being. Understanding that our lives are without purpose and that no superior entities watch over our fate. So, look up God is Dead, Secularization, Enlightenment, Scientific Revolution. Okay? So you should also get a more full understanding of what secularization has meant for modern society and how it is different from more or non-secular society. Okay? Maybe I took a little too long, but again, this is the context in which Nietzsche said his famous quote, God is dead. Okay? Well, was he right in saying that God is dead? And the answer is no, as I have mentioned earlier. Religion is still one of the most truly global of all social institutions, affecting many aspects of life. Throughout the world today, there is actually a religious revival. It has especially taken root among the poor and the dispossessed. Well, I just want to share with you some statistical data, and this is a universal trend. Religiosity is negatively correlated with educational attainment, meaning lower the education, higher the religiosity, meaning higher the possibility that someone has religious affiliation. Okay? The same thing goes, and the similar trend goes like this. Socioeconomic class is also negatively correlated with religiosity, meaning lower the socioeconomic class, higher the affiliation with religious group. Okay, so I said those in support of the last point. Okay? Grinding poverty is fertile ground for religious revival, especially among people living in countries in the global south. A study of nearly 200 societies around the world concluded that religious revival is likely to win out over secularization among people who lack existential security. It refers to the feeling that survival, complete with adequate food, clothing, and shelter, is secure enough that it can be taken for granted. Okay? Another term to look up. Existential security. Well, this will be the last observation or introductory remark before we get to the more nitty-gritty stuff on religion. As you may all know, religion is one of the oldest human institutions. According to anthropologists, there have probably been about 100,000 religions throughout human history. I don't know how they count this, but it sure is interesting enough. Okay? Again, throughout human history, there have probably been about 100,000 religions, again, throughout human history. And other interesting facts continue. New religions constantly emerge and disappear over time. Only the religions with enough followers eventually last, as you'd agree. And did you know that all religions, including Christianity, okay, begin as cults? Okay? As you know, during Jesus Christ's time, his belief and whatever he preached was considered a cult because he preached something totally new, right? And that's what cults are. They, are defined by their unusual beliefs, religious, spiritual, or philosophical beliefs and rituals. And there you go. And that's the last thing I want to say as an introduction to this topic of religion, and move on to the next section. Well, before I move on, any question or anything you want to share? Okay. Well, this may be sort of not something that you're used to, talking about theories of religion. Well, there are many theories of religion, but I just want to focus on two. Okay? I want to focus on two sociological perspectives on religion. Okay? Why, again, religion exists. Okay? And let's first talk about the functionalist perspective on religion. And there are, not there are, but just to give you a background as to what functionalist perspective on religion is. Well, according to functionalism, society is like an organism. Okay? So all the parts, for example, economy, education, family, religion, political system, they're all social institutions, right? They are parts. They're like parts of an organism. Okay? And they all perform certain functions for this given entity to exist. Okay? So that's what functionalism is. So although I'll be talking about the functionalist perspective on religion, you can apply functionalism to anything. Functionalism of capital punishment, functionalism of poverty even, functionalism of inequality. You can apply this functionalism to any social phenomenon. Okay? So basically it describes the functions whatever given phenomenon performs for society. Okay? So in regard to religion, the functionalist perspective stresses the functions that religion serves for society. Well, just to give you a better sense of what functionalist perspective is, again, for example, one of the interesting functionalist perspective on poverty. Can you think of any positive function of poverty for society? Believe it or not, they would argue like this. Because of poverty, because there are poor people, there is a market for used goods. Okay? There is a market for totally wrecked cars. Something like that, okay? That's what functionalist perspective is all about. And just imagine. Do you think functionalism is favored by progressive intellectuals or conservative intellectuals? Conservative, there you go. So functionalism is associated with conservative political orientation. Okay? So this one I think you should be able to answer. What are the functions of religion for society and individuals? And I only have 5, but this is something you should also look up on the internet at least, because I think they'll list like upwards of 10, okay? But I just focus on 5 main functions, but I think it's fun to look up what the rest are. Okay, what are the functions of religion for society and individuals? Yes? Hmm? Okay, having a purpose in life and maybe even after life? Yes? Okay, so provides a code of ethics to follow so that people become more moral. Anyone else? See, what I did on the midterm is like, if I give you like a list of 5 factors or whatever, I'll list 3 correct answers and 1 incorrect answer. Was that difficult? Because I made it obvious, really. I didn't want to make a difficult exam. Anyway, I got sort of sidetracked there. Any other functions of religion? Yes? Okay, so it promotes unity. Okay, thank you. All right, thanks for all the wonderful comments. And here we go. I just, again, if you type this question, what are the functions of religion for society, on the internet, even you'll get at least a list of 8, 10, some even more than that. But I think these are the most important ones, okay? First, provision of meaning, and that's the one that your name is? Abby. Abby mentioned. It's provision of meaning, right? So religion provides meaningful answers to ultimate and eternal questions about existence and death. Right? There are things that science cannot provide answers to, right? Like, for example, what happens to people after they die, right? So that's just one example, right? And sometimes when loved ones get sick, also, why some people get sick while not others, right? That's another, I don't know if that's a profound question, but and religion also gives meaning and purpose to life. Second function, social unity and stability. And this one was also mentioned by Abby. Religion provides people with a common set of beliefs and values, and religion functions as a form of social cement. And religion strengthens their social bonds and unites them by regularly bringing them together to enact various rituals. Third, social control. Religion teaches people moral behavior and thus helps them learn how to be good members of society. So the ones mentioned by the students are all in the top 3 answers. So religion reinforces social norms, reinforcing basic values related to human life, sexual behavior, property, and respect for others. Example, the 10 Commandments of the Judeo-Christian tradition. Religion is thus an agent of social control That is, it serves to strengthen social order. Fourth function, I just gave it a fancy sort of a heading, therapeutic function, right? Religion provides emotional support during major events of the life cycle, enhances psychological well-being by increasing their social interaction with others in and outside of the places of worship. Many studies find that people of all ages, not just the elderly, are happier and are more satisfied with their lives if they're religious. Again, I have not seen any study that negates this point. Okay? Again, people who are religious, they're found to be happier and more satisfied with their lives. Okay? So, therapeutic function, psychological support, and also physical well-being. Because many religions teach that you shouldn't be drinking, you shouldn't be smoking, and doing other delinquent, or engaging in other delinquent behaviors. The fifth function, controversial, social change. Religion can sometimes inspire social change by criticizing social injustice, existing social morality, and government action. Religion may also motivate people to work for positive social change. Can you think of any example where religion promoted social change? Because religion is often associated with status quo, right? Yes. But that's not for social change, right? Oh, social morality. Okay, that'll be for, well, that's an interesting example, right? Again, it's, but the example that you mentioned is definitely not for social change. Hmm? Okay. Any example where religion served to bring about social change? Yes. Mm. Mm. Okay, thank you, Abby. Well, as I mentioned, religion is often associated with status quo. They're usually against social change, right? But if you wanted to list all the activities with which religious organizations are engaged in, there are quite many, right? Including provision of social service or welfare services too, right? But if you wanted to single out something that really meant something for a change, I think probably the best example is this civil rights movement in the USA, right? This is where, for example, Martin Luther King Jr. Spearheaded this movement for the rights of African Americans in the USA, right? So this one is often singled out as one good example where religion served to bring about social change. But again, other ones you could come up with, but they're really sort of minor in comparison, and they do not really represent fundamental changes, right? Other than these five, can you think of any other functions of religion? So I already mentioned one, as Evie mentioned, provision of welfare services, and also their recreational function, right? You know how if you go to church, don't you have fun? No? Like when you're singing hymn, you know, you have, no? Or after the church service, isn't there like a gathering of young people for whatever? No? Anyway, you could list up at least 5 more if you want to, okay? So can anyone, before we move on, any other functions of religion? Anyway, look it up. Just type functions of religion and you'll get a lot of hits. Now this one, I'm talking about these 2 theories for the first time, am I not? Okay, from now on, if you're writing a paper for any course and you're looking for like theories, I think these 2 theories are something that you should always think about. Okay, functionalist and conflict. Okay, and these 2 theories, especially the conflict perspective on religion, has really, really interesting things to say about what religion does for us, okay, or against us, okay? According to conflict theories, I think you should really be able to say this in your own words. Again, what conflict theory is quite profound. And it's very agreeable, okay? As you'd agree, society or social structures comprise of people, classes, interest groups, and when I say people, classes, interest groups, I'm including everything. I'm including every type of a group. Okay, women, men, rich people, middle class people, lower socioeconomic people, Asians, African Americans, Caucasians. What else can we include? Indigenous. And you can also talk about occupational groups, okay? Politicians, capitalists, professors, manual laborers. So again, society comprises of all these different groups, in addition to what I just mentioned, okay? And they all have different interests and resources. Yes or no? Can cleaners have the same resources as professors? No, right? What about men and women? Do they have the same resources? No. What about the degree of power? Different. Do they have same interest? No. They all have different interests. Okay? So that's what society is. And that's what conflict theory starts from. That's the starting point. That society is full of these interest groups. Okay? Again, including men and women, clergy, lay people, professors, cleaners, politicians, whatever, lawmakers, and so on, right? And that fact is followed by this. They are in constant struggle for power, or to get more of the limited resources like money and land. See, without you knowing, because you're in the safety of this classroom, this struggle is something that happens on a daily basis. Okay, you just know about it when it becomes a news. But even without the news coverage, it's happening all the time. Okay? And look at the issues like this. Tax. Who decides how much tax to be charged to the rich? Is it the powerless poor people or the elite? There you go. So whatever issues that affect you, okay, whether it's healthcare, tax, education, housing, military spending, welfare benefit, or the lack thereof, these are all decisions arrived at after all these struggles, okay? And who have the final say in most cases? Is it the students? Is it the powerless poor people? Or the elite? There you go. And that's what the final conclusion is. Okay? So according to the conflict theories, the elite use their power to control the institutions of society, including religion, to their advantage. And the elite use their power to shape public policies and opinions to their advantage. You know, I was really hopeful for the American students to get the student loan forgiven. It's gone now, right? You're not going to get that help. See, again, who decided to, who went against that? Was it students or the professors? The elite, right? And who are against universal health care in the USA? Rich people, right? So there you go. And keep that in mind, because from that perspective, there is this conflict perspective on religion. It's just you don't have to be a Marxist to appreciate the points made by a conflict theorist on religion, okay? It'll just blow you away, okay? Here we go. Religion can reinforce and promote social inequality and social conflict. The conflict approach to religion derives largely from the writings of Karl Marx, who saw religion in the following 4 ways. I know Karl Marx is like seen as like a demon, especially in a country like the USA. But I think some countries have vulgarized his ideas, especially North Korea. Okay? But if you just look at his ideas themselves, very, very profound, and it really alerts us to all these problems that exist in a capitalist society. Okay? So I'm not saying that I'm a Marxist, but with Marxist idea, what I've learned to appreciate is this. For example, is equality desirable? Is it possible? I don't think it is possible, and to a lesser extent, desirable. But what I could appreciate from Marx is this. As a human being, we need to minimize inequality. Okay? Again, can inequality be eliminated? It's not possible. Okay? Or And at the same time, is it desirable? Not really, because there's got to be a reward for those who try harder, right? But we don't want to let it go out of hand, like in a certain country I don't want to name. But we got to keep that inequality under control, okay? By, again, minimizing inequality, okay? So that's what I take on how I take on Karl Marx. All right. Again, this is according to Karl Marx, okay? First, he said religion is a form of alienation. You know why he said this? Again, I hope you're not offended because you're, Christian or Muslim or whatever, but this is what he said. Well, let me ask you, who created God? There you go. And this is what Marx said. People created gods, then they lost their awareness that they had done so. And they lost control over something that they have created, and worship or the fear of the very gods they created. Isn't this really profound? So that's, again, for Marx, religion is a very serious form of alienation, okay? Because of this explanation. Second, he views religion as opium of the masses. This is a very famous quote, okay? The elite has used religion to legitimize the status quo. Then why aren't people trying to change this? Because the answer lies in what Marx said, that religion is the opium of the masses. What it is this. Let's say you're poor and you see injustice. Now, instead of fighting to bring about change, religion pacifies you. This is the way God planned things, so you should accept the way it is. That's why he came to this conclusion. Religion is the opium of the masses. Okay? It follows like this. So religion, like a drug, makes people content with their existing conditions. I think the caste system in Hinduism is a perfect example. Okay? I hope I don't offend any Indian students, but if I was born in India and I belonged to the untouchables, I think I would just go crazy. Just because of my birth, I can only live in a certain area. I can get no job that I like, although there are changes taking place. But let's just talk about how things used to be back 100 years ago. But why isn't there a revolution? Because there are more people belonging to lower caste than people belonging to the upper caste, right? Why aren't they engaging in any revolutionary act? That's because of what Marx said. Religion, their Hinduism, is serving like an opium. Again, according to Marx, right? So they believe that if they endure their suffering, they will be rewarded in the afterlife. Meaning, in the case of Buddhism, reborn as a higher being, right? So such views lead them to abstain from blaming the elite for their poverty and thus not to revolt. Third, religious legitimization of the existing order. Um, you know, I'm not going to name countries, but they're some of the poorest countries in the world in some continents, right? Now, are they poor because they don't have any religion? Believe it or not, you name a country that is very poor, and they always have a very powerful religious presence. Okay? And the reason I'm mentioning that is this. Dominant religion in any society is legitimates the interest of the ruling class. So if every religion does what it preaches, shouldn't the world we live in is a better place to live? Okay? Again, I just want to actually name a country and say, hey, look, they have this religion, right? But what are the priests, what are the clergy of this particular religion doing for the poor, for the oppressed people? And the answer is they're doing nothing, because they share the same interest as the elite. Okay? And that's what Marx pointed it out. Throughout human history, can you think of any dominant religion in any society going against the wishes of the dominant class? Never. Okay? It's always the religion of maybe I'll not say anything about that. But anyway, so just the first 3 points, aren't they really powerful arguments being made by Marx? Again, you don't have to agree with what Marx said, but they are really powerful statements. Okay, and again, it's up to you to agree or disagree. Okay. So dominant religion in any society is always the religion of its economically and politically dominant class. And the dominant religion in any society is almost always provides a justification for existing inequalities and injustice. Okay? A classic example would be Hinduism in India, right? Well, you could name so many countries where, let's say, the Catholic Church or Catholicism is the number one religion, and people there are suffering. Okay? And in the Korean context, Confucianism is a classic example. Okay? Where, in the past, that is. Okay? Okay, fourth and last observation Marx has made about religion, and that's conflict perspective of religion is this. Religion has been used as a tool for masking an underlying social conflict and or as a form of distraction from real social problems. And what does he mean by this? From the early decades of the 14th century until 1650, this is an example that is often referred to, okay, as a fourth point of conflict perspective on religion, that religion is used as a tool to mask an underlying social conflict. From the early decades of the 14th century until 1650, Europeans executed up to 500,000 witches, 85% or more of whom were women. Witches were held accountable for many wicked deeds, such as causing hailstorms, crop failures, and sickness. How can he explain the witch craze? Two historical factors seem to have played a part. First, conflict between Catholicism and Protestantism reached its height during the witch craze. The Catholic Church used the witch craze as a means of social control over heretics and potential heretics. Second, Europe was in a state of deep economic, political, and social unrest at the time, and the fear of witchcraft diverted the attention of the miserable peasantry away from the real source of their problems. The poor came to believe that they were being victimized by witches and devils instead of princes and popes. Now, let me show you some pictures. Using our senses like today, it's just horrible, right? To be burned alive. My God, this really happened to over 500,000 accused witches, a vast majority of whom were women. Now, can you think of any other historical sort of events where religion was used to divert people's attention from real source of problems? It is often said that in today's context, something took over religion as a tool for masking an underlying social problem. Guess what that is? Anyone? It's sports. Okay? All over the world, especially soccer fans. Who are these crazy soccer fans? In the USA, crazy American football fans. Typically, not the highest class. Okay? It's usually the middle class, average person, right? And instead of focusing their attention on the social problems that are causing them misery, their attention is so preoccupied with the teams they like. I spent 1 year as a visiting scholar at UC Berkeley, and I was so amazed because all the students ever talked about were college sports. Can you imagine the students doing that for 4 years? Instead of talking about, things they should do to change, society, to make society better, their focus was totally onto college sports. And again, that was my personal observation, but what I just said about how sports has taken over as a tool for masking or distracting people's attention from social problems, that is an observation made by leading sociologists all over. Okay, so, and I think it really, that point is really valid, I think. Okay, and especially if you're sports fans, you'll know what I mean. Okay. All right, I'm gonna stop here. And before I let you go, do you have any questions about what I talked about this morning? About any theory, about Marx, about sports? All right, thank you. See you on Wednesday.